So, to say that the Flash movie has had a very rough ride would be maybe the greatest understatement of all time, from various directors signing on and then subsequently dropping out, to Ezra Miller's personal issues, and then WB Discovery wanting to shelve the movie altogether. So, I want to take a look at how this movie can and should most definitely be improved. So starting off with the obvious, I'm going to recast Ezra for my take on The Flash because I think a lot of people want that to happen anyway, and while I personally have nothing against Miller as an actor or a person, I feel they just need some help altogether, because they're obviously dealing with some complex mental health stuff. So let's get into how this movie needs to be fixed. Now, the first thing I would do is not make this a time travel or a multiverse movie, because while I love the idea of either Michael Keaton's Batman showing up or getting Jeffrey Dean Morgan as a Flashpoint Thomas Wayne, I think The Flash works better on his own as part of his own adventures. The Flash TV show, for example, does this very well, and yes, the later seasons do have their flaws, but for the most part, Barry is the focal point and acts how a hero should, and I want that to be a big part of this movie. But what about fan casting the character? So let's take a look at that. So when it comes to recasting a certain character for a movie, I have 3 ideas. Firstly, the fan favourite, the one that is in the fandom and is probably one of the most popular choices. Secondly, the typecast, the one that a lot of people don't really want to happen, and while some people maybe do, the majority will think it's maybe a bit too generic for the certain character. And then thirdly, there's the underdog, the idea that has gone out there into the fandom but has somewhat gone under the radar, so to speak. So I've got actors that will fill all 3 of these who could play the Flash in one aspect or another, so let's take a look at them. So for the fan favourite, I've got Lucas Till. Now, you might know him for his work on the TV reboot of MacGyver, or for his role as Alex Summers' Havoc from X-Men First Class and X-Men Apocalypse. Now, I for one think this could be a brilliant idea, because while I'm not familiar with a majority of Lucas Till's work, I've heard nothing but great things about the actor. So, if he could pull off this role, then I would be up for it, just as long as the rest of the fandom loves the idea anyway. Then there's the typecast, the predefined mould that multiple actors already fit into, and the actor that fills this role is Dylan O'Brien. Now, this one I've actually seen float up quite a bit in conversation recently, as O'Brien was one of the first actors to be rumoured as Ezra's replacement, following the news they would no longer be playing the character following the Flash movie. Now, personally, I don't think Dylan O'Brien fits this role well, because while I don't have anything against Dylan O'Brien as an actor, I don't really watch a lot of his work, but I feel like he doesn't really mesh with the role tonally speaking, and I don't think he has the look for Barry Allen personally. And while I think he could have definitely taken on Spider-Man before Tom Holland got cast. And thirdly, we have the underdog, the fan casting idea that might have gone under the radar, and that fan cast is Elliot Page. Now, I've actually seen this floating around here and there within the fandom, and I think it's a pretty decent idea. Now, you might know Elliot Page for his work in the movie Super, which was written and directed by James Gunn, but you'll more than likely know Page for his work as Victor Hargreaves in Netflix's The Umbrella Academy, a show that I think I really need to get to soon. From what I hear, it's very well received. Now, I for one think that Elliot Page could definitely pull off this role, because it's a role that we haven't really seen him tackle, plus I think he'd be absolutely brilliant as a character, and I think might be the #1 choice for Ezra Miller's replacement. Okay, now we've got the recasting out of the way, let's move on to the movie's villain, which we don't really have any clear ideas of. Because I believe it was rumoured at one point it was going to be an alternate version of Barry Allen, and then at one point it was going to be a resurrected General Zod somehow, which seems interesting, but I think the best idea is to use Reverse Flash, because I think it makes logical sense for the story, and he is the Flash's greatest enemy. Sorry, Captain Cold and Gorilla Grodd. Now, casting for Eobard is very much a no-brainer, because I think I speak for everyone when I say Anthony Starr would be amazing as the Reverse Flash, because if you've seen any of Starr's work as Homelander or even in the show Banshee, then I don't think I need to explain myself here. Matthew McConaughey could be great as well, but I think Anthony Starr fits this role even better. So, moving on to the plot, this is going to be interesting because the Flash movie's story is very confusing to say the least, because it appears to be a multiverse story but also a time travel story as well. And that's just going to confuse the hell out of everyone.
'Tis confusion!
So the simplest idea would be just to make it a story about Barry versus Eobard, and if Warner Bros. Discovery decides to make a Flash trilogy, and let's face it, they probably will, then I think Flashpoint should be adapted for a future sequel. Making it the first film doesn't necessarily work, because, for one thing, this universe kind of just started and is still trying to find its footing. And secondly, we don't really know anything about this version of Barry and how different he may be from the comics. So I think starting off with a clean slate is the simplest idea. Now, I think the best way to take advantage of having a horror director like Andy Muschietti on board is to include some horror elements in the story. Now, through my research, I found a lot of horror films use various codes and conventions in their storytelling, like jump scares, flashbacks, and secluded locations. And that's what this movie should use. David S. Sandberg used some of these in Shazam, so I think Muschietti could definitely do the same thing.